Alto, an outstanding first-year student in Maritza Royal Academy of Magic, excels in all subjects except summoning. His professor gives him one more day to summon a familiar, or he can't advance. Here he meets Lilia. His friend intends to confront the teacher, but Alto pacifies her. In the library, while thinking about what to summon, an old summoning book falls on his head, confirming its magic circle is still legible. He draws it onto the floor and begins summoning it. As the magic circle glows golden, he offers his blood, causing black smoke to envelope the room, revealing a naked woman with horns and a tail. He shot away from the sight, so the woman tease him, while asking what he wanted. Instead of giving in, he tells her to be his familiar instead. The golden light seeps into her chest, and the same marks form on it. In his hand, he finally has a familiar, a devil Vermeil. Vermeil drains his mana with a kiss, and asks him for an order. As her hand roams around his body, he commands her to get dressed. Afterward, Alto explains the situation with Vermeil. He then discovers his mana potency, the reason why he can't contract with anyone other than a devil. Curious, he asks her reason for not breaking the contract, despite being capable of it. She admits that she can kill him, but decides to show gratitude for freeing her from the book. When he asks if she's a bad person, Vermeil just laughs it off. The next day, concealing Vermeil's demonic features, Alto presents her as a human familiar, since demons are seen as evil beings. Despite initial disbelief from the professor, Vermeil proves her identity with the seal, guaranteeing Alto's advancement. During class, Vermeil sits on Alto's lap, irritating Lilia. The professor intervenes, but Vermeil argues for fairness as other familiars also rest on their masters. As Lilia reaches her limit, she snaps at them and later challenges Alto to a duel, with the condition that if he loses, Vermeil stays home unless needed. Vermeil adds that if they win, Lilia must fulfill one request from Alto. They go to the dueling area and broadcast all over the school. Lilia summons a high-ranking wind spirit, Sylphide, and attacks them with big swirling winds. Alto tries blocking, but his casting is late, so Vermeil blocks it for him. Lilia assumes it's a direct hit, but Vermeil stands unscratched. After the wind disperses, she displays an evil smile before counterattacking. She closes her distance with Lilia and attacks, enough to make the guys blush. Since Alto and Vermeil win the duel, he has the right to order her, though she expects another thing. Alto requests Lilia to be friends with Vermeil. The girls shake hands, smiling, pretending to get along. Back home, Vermeil informs Alto that Lilia loves him, but he refuses to accept it. Again, Vermeil drains his mana with a kiss and explains that she needs it since she's weakened. Everyone's attention is on Vermeil. The next day, just as Alto is lecturing her not to stand out, she sends a loose dragon flying with a flick. After the announcement for their next term, Lilia confronts them for attracting attention. Their class is about familiars and demons and Lilia still sticks with them, with the excuse of befriending. As per the request, during the duel sooner, they face off against the Dragon Master and Rex. Seeking revenge, Rex, a dragon rider, whose club is exclusive to dragon contractors, underestimates them, so Vermeil keeps on provoking them. Distracted, Alto sneaks into their back and cages them in his crystals. Inside, Rex summons his dinosaur, breaking free from Alto's magic. He demands them to apologize and implies that Vermeil can comply differently. Alto refuses, shielding Vermeil. Rex charges his dinosaur, but Vermeil hugs Alto from behind, giving back his amplified mana. Alto uses this to overpower the dinosaur, even injuring Rex, the dragon owner, and Rex apologizes to them, and Lilia laughs at them wickedly. Afterward, in his dorm, while Alto thinks about the power he exerted, Vermeil asks about his plans for the future. He wants to be a platinum mage far above gold, silver, bronze, and apprentice mages. When he doubts his capability, she hugs him and swears to make his dream come true. Then she shifts to one of his mana again. The next day, Vermeil shines brightly while Alta looks drained. Then Cheryl and Marks appear, with Marks commending his win against their seniors and declaring to be his worthy rival. Coincidentally, the professor finds the top students together and conveys the headmaster's order to bring them. Cheryl, Lilia, and Alto are selected for a trial as their year's representatives. Despite not being invited, Marks who's failing his subjects, decides to compete with them. He proudly introduces his familiar Francois, above with a ribbon, and runs ahead of them, but gets caught by a plant monster. Just a few seconds later, Sook's attendant Chur helps him while the others proceed. Meanwhile, Alto and Lilia locate the fairy flower, the objective for their trial guarded by a Cerberus. Noticing that Cerberus is sick, Lilia plans to sneak with her invisibility potion. She takes it, but her clothes are still visible, so she takes it off. This makes her blush, after realizing that she's stripping in front of Alto, while Lydia proceeds with her plan. Alto, who just realized that he needs to do something to compete, is having Vermilion, sucking his mana so she can amplify it. On the other hand, Lilia's plan is busted because one of Cerberus' heads is not sick and catches the scent of her presence. Ulta blasts a fire attack at growing the Cerberus, giving Lilia the chance. Ulta keeps on attacking until Vermino finishes preparing her attack, which knocks out the monster. Lilia successfully gets the fairy flower when she gives it to Alto, claiming he deserves it. Her potion wears off, leaving her naked, panicking. The flower flew to Cheryl's side, and she won the trial. While Vermeil eats and expresses that she likes creeps, making Alto realize that it's 100 years into the future for Vermeil and that he knows nothing about her. During their break time, Marx talks about Chris, the founder of the Dragon Rider, and sings praises about her, as she's one of the gold squares, and also a part of the student council, with Vermeil giving her a look. Lilia explains the student council and their authority, including how 5 of the 7 golden squares are in it. Alto expresses his envy for the student council president, who's close to being platinum. In the changing room, Lilia shares with Cheryl her doubt of Vermeil's identity. With her power, Cheryl comments that she must like Alto, but she plays it off as worry for friends. Regardless, Cheryl encourages her to hurry, as her feelings will become more troublesome the longer it is. Meanwhile, Vermeil is in the guy's changing room watching Alto, surprising him. In the hallway, she reasons out why she's there, and Lilia calls her stupid, slipping out that she also wants to, making Alto look at Lilia suspiciously, as Alto reminds Vermeil to keep low-key. That's when the student council passes them, taking the shower. It surprises Alto to discover Vermeil's presence, while he recalls the encounter with the student council, and she suddenly responds with him. She again convinces him to give his mana, in exchange for being stronger. At the same time, Chris beats up Rex for losing, and orders him to lick his boots, stained by his blood, while mocking his dragon. Recalling Vermeil's words about their club, Rex quits. Alto's win and human familiarity pique Chris' interest. The next day, Alto, Lilia, and Vermeil visit Rex in the nurse's room. Rex suddenly asks Alto about his opinion of dinosaurs, and he describes them as big and scary but cool, and then he drives them away. Despite Lily's attempt to dissuade him, he proceeds to duel with Chris. To teach him respect for authority, Chris summons her dragon familiar to be him. Alto calls for Vermeil, and they kiss. In front of the broadcast, Chris notices his golden mana, while Rex's so-called brother informs him about the duel. Chris bombards them with fire attacks, but Vermeil keeps on blocking it. Despite Alto's excellence in his casting, one alerts Chris is Vermeil's ability to defend without any protection spells. To finish the battle, Vermeil decides to give all of her remaining mana to Alto and rains ice crystals on his opponent, destroying a portion of the stage. However, it isn't enough, as Chris escapes by mounting her dragon. Chris attacks them non-stop, and Alto tries counter-attacking, but she dodges it all. Alto questions why she looks down on everyone, so she recites the superiority of the dragons, especially its wings. She even belittles everyone who has weak families below her, and considers them insects. One of the student council members watch and conclude that it's already Chris' win. Alto opposes Chris' idea and claims that familiars are their precious companions. Vermeil holds his shoulder, transferring mana, and they both glow golden. It surprises her that they still have that much mana. As Chris attacks, they also launch their own. Chris thinks that her attack is a hit, but without her knowing, the two just use the ice crystals to reach her. Rex's brother confirms if he doesn't want to watch, but Rex is convinced that Alta will lose. On the contrary, Alta manages to land on Chris' dragon and points a crystal on her neck, winning the duel. Everyone watching them rejoices. After the duel, Alta's popularity with girls skyrockets, triggering Lilia's temper. Then Professor Obsidian appears, getting girls' attention. He compliments Alto's battle, but he also warns him about the danger of duels. The professor left with the girls, leaving Alto thinking how cool he is, which Lilia agrees with. But when he asks if the professor is her type, she gives him a look of disapproval. At the same time, Rex finds Chris cleaning. She apologizes to him, but he just scowls and helps her. That night, Vermal sneaks into Alto's bed to steal a kiss, but he stops her, stating kissing should be between lovers. But she professes her love for him and sees no issue with it. The next day, Lilia notices Vermal's glowing, reminding Alto of her confession, making him flustered. In the library, he asks Obsidian about demons, falling in love with humans, and the professor mentions folktales about succubus, whose only interest is the person's manner. While eating, Alto can't hide his worries from Vermal and expresses his concern that she's just after his mana. Vermal reassures him, explaining she only needs mana to survive, and kisses him without taking any. She allows him to kiss her, but he declines and pushes her away. The next day, both Vermal and Alto are glowing. Alto spots Obsidian and thanks him for answering his question about demons and humans, but the professor wonders his question's reason, so he plays it as plain curiosity. Their conversation shifts to romance, and Obsidian cringes on his remark that every woman is a little demon. The next day, a Silver Square Girl student is in a coma after secretly meeting up and confessing to Obsidian. She is found frozen in her room, filled with ice magic. The student council discusses this and assumes it's someone's ploy, as it's already the third case. Meanwhile, Alto measures Vermal's features for a report on his familiar, which she happily grins about. He notes her height, and she shamelessly helps him by putting his hand on her chest, witnessed by Sylphide. After getting Sylphide's report, Lilia sneaks into the boys' dorm with her invisibility potion. Luckily, Vermal already hides her horns and tail when Lilia arrives at Alto's room. When Alto searches for a book, he inadvertently touches the tip of Lilia's bust, so she slips down and loses her mind. Vermal points out Alto's growth, and he declares that he doesn't want to be defeated with her around. Then he notices the time and decides to shop before leaving the room. Vermal adds Alto to his report about things that she likes. Meanwhile, Rex, who's not in his right mind and his eyes reddened, beats Chris. Flashback: when Rex summons a big egg, it thrills him. When Chris, known as a genius, talks with him, thrilled with her attention on his familiar, he promises to take care of it until it grows big and cool, as she described. Back to the present. While shopping, Alto refuses to buy sweets for Vermilion, but she sulks, so he eventually gives in. She kisses him as a thanks, publicly flustering Alto. Then Rex's brother informs them about Rex, who's cruelly beating up Chris. On Rex's side, Chris fires an attack on him, but he just walks on fire, and part of his head and shoulder transforms. Despite claiming it's for revenge, it doesn't satisfy him. After kicking her and punches from below with his magic, he grabs her by the collar and tears swell on her eyes, telling him to stop. Right then, Alto and Vermal arrive, grabbing his attention. Alto helps Chris, but she just tells him to run. Rex calls for his summon and Alto's mark on his hand, and Vermal glows. Suddenly, a white-haired girl arrives, defeating Rex with her judgment sword, consecutively slicing him in his familiar in all directions. She's the student council president and tells Chris to be ashamed of losing against someone weaker. Elena asked Vermal if she's aware of the power controlling Rex, and she feigns ignorance. In the council room, with Rex's case, the student council is convinced that someone is behind the incidents. Before they finish the discussion, Chris leaves the room, pissed off at whoever touched for Toy Rex. The incident still bothers Alto, but Lilia flicks his head, advising him to focus on their upcoming exam. Meanwhile, Vermal acts weirdly as she requests to stay in the dorm, instead of sticking with Alto, worrying him. Lilia assures him that Vermal will be fine, wanting to take advantage of a time alone. On her way to the dorm, Vermal meets with Obsidian, implying that she knows what he's doing. She advises him to stop and not to bother Alto. She also mentions that his low-tier demon won't let him achieve anything. However, when she turns her back, a paper doll flies and Obsidian injects a syringe into her. It weakens Vermal, and black smoke flows out from her, while being pushed by Lilia's whims. Alto's hand also stings, and the familiar mark emits the same black smoke. A sudden surge of mana is felt by everyone in the school. As the sky turns dark, worried Alto runs off to Vermilion. Elena also rushes into the source, but she's blocked by a paper doll. After slicing it, the paper doll multiplies and encircles her, later forming a paper golem. Vermeil transforms into her complete demon form. Her horns become longer and her teeth sharper. She also reveals her wings, which are normally hidden even when she's with Alto. Her overall appearance is monstrous, matching her voice. She attacks Obsidian, but after dodging it, it amazes him to see her power, enough to destroy the landform. With just a swing of her hand, Elena slices the paper golem, but it just keeps on repairing. A black lump forms on Obsidian's hand, which chains Vermeil, restricting her movements. Alto and Lilia arrive, seeing Vermeil's monstrous state. He asks Obsidian about the situation, and he reveals that he's the culprit of all the incidents, with his custom-made liquid that invokes madness. Furious, he bursts with an incredible mana, and Vermeil, who's also surrounded by golden mana, breaks off the chain, free from the restriction but still unconscious. Vermeil attacks Obsidian, but Alto blocks her, piercing his chest instead. His blood dripping down awakens Vermilion, whose consciousness is deep down, surrounded by darkness. As she remembers his light giving his hand, realizing what she did, blood flows from her eyes, and she becomes even more vicious. But Alto hugs her and tells her to stop. Her wings vanish, and she gradually returns to her basic form. Despite his injury on his chest, he wants to take responsibility as Vermeil's master, and pacifies her, assuring them that it's all right with him. Before he passes out, Lilia asks Vermeil if he's dead, and Vermeil squeals to bring him back. She kisses him, sharing her mana and healing his injuries. Obsidian, who witnesses this, can accept that demons are powerful. He injects the liquid into himself and transforms into a huge demon with numerous eyes around his body. He calls it a demon hybrid, a result of absorbing lower demons. But before he can even attack, Vermeil blasts his demon limbs with a single punch. He decides to flee instead, and separates his smaller form from the bigger body. But Chris is waiting for Midair, riding her dragon, and blocks his escape. Finally, Vermeil knocks him down without killing him, as Alto saved him. Before Alto wakes up, his injuries gone, and Lilia hugs him, bawling her eyes out. Meanwhile, Vermeil keeps her distance from him. Afterward, Vermeil discusses with Alto about healing him. He died in his heart, known as Vermeil's demon heart. So if one of them dies, the other will die too. Hearing this infuriates Alto, as he's a human with a short life, cutting Vermeil's supposedly long life. After that, the incident is resolved, despite the other questionable things, including the co-conspirator that Elena fought with. They arrested Obsidian, and the victims woke up. Rex smiles after seeing Chris sleeping beside his bed. After that, Vermeil's been acting cold towards Alto, and doesn't talk to him, aside from replenishing his mana. Vermeil thinks she doesn't deserve to be around Alto, because she's a monster, but she also assures him that she will take responsibility for his heart until he stabilizes. Alto looks at her with anger, and expresses that he's mad. Vermeil argues that they can no longer live normally, but he just grabs her face and kisses her. Without taking her mana, he corners her into the wall, and declares that she's his familiar, so they should be together always, and runs away from embarrassment. Realizing the meaning of the kiss also flusters Vermeil. While Alto's sleeping, Vermeil watches him, and hears him calling her name in his sleep. The next day, the students are all grieving, the girls for Obsidian, and the boys for Vermeil's absence, since she asks for a long time. By the riverside, Lilia confronts Vermilion about being a demon, which she apologizes for, but she rejects it, as it's not a big deal, as long as it doesn't concern Alto. Then Lilia calls her stupid for assuming that she'll be afraid of her, as what she is doesn't matter, but whether she's good or bad. She also adds that what she should think of is her and Alto's feelings. Then she gives a chop on her head and advises to rely on his master as his familiar. When Vermilk comes home, she tells Alto that she worries that she'll hurt him again. Even though she is a demon, she still wants to be with him. Alto expresses his relief and promises to be a better master for her. He's about to give her the donuts, but she requests to kiss instead, dropping the sweets. Then she also demands him to kiss her. She admits that even if she's alone that day, she keeps on thinking about him. The next day, the biggest size uniform still doesn't fit Luther. A male, she can't button it on the chest part. They plan to be together in class again, as master and as familiar. Meanwhile, a blue-haired man, Iolite, talks with someone about obsidian and recounts his disapproval of the professor, joining them since he knows he'll not succeed. Then a man sneakily attacks them, but he just slams him, along with the other bodies lying down. Vermeil is wearing the same uniform, but she still sticks out with her chest. The guys come running to thank Alto, while the others can't decide if her old outfit is better as they inform him about the upcoming test. Alto wants to do his best with Vermeil, but she drags him to a corner to kiss him. When they come back to the classroom, the student council intervenes in their class and takes Alto and Vermeil to the council room. Alto is nervous, as he does not know if Romeo's identity is busted. He's relieved when the student council president just asks him about obsidian, but then she questions him if he's hiding anything. The girl behind him unsheaths her sword into Alto's neck, while the guy with glasses points numerous daggers around Vermeil. Elena asks him again, and he's about to lie about it, but Vermeil stops him, so he chooses to confess about their situation instead. When he admits that Vermeil is a demon, it shocks all of them. Alto accepts if he's to be expelled from the school, even though he just summoned Vermeil for the sake of advancing. He'll just think that there's another way to achieve it, or it's not for him. If he fails, however, admitting that the fault is from their faculty, Elena promises to keep it a secret and invites him to join the student council instead. Elena wants to recruit Alto after he defeats Chris, one of the academy's top 5. Alto suspects she wants to monitor him, but Elena convinces him it's also about proving Vermeil isn't a threat by protecting the academy. He shares this with his friends, hiding Vermeil's identity, and they react differently. Lilia finds it sudden. Cheryl sees it as natural after his duel with Chris, and Marks dances with him in glee, as he's the first one to join the student council. Despite being just in his second year, the past incident makes him realize that he needs to be strong enough, and slips out that it's to protect Vermeil, flustering him. He tries clarifying it, but it doesn't bother, but makes her happy instead. She then begins unbuttoning his shirt, with the excuse of helping him grow stronger. Despite resisting, he loses against her insistence. After praying, Elena destroys the church's statue, while implying that she finally found the world's greatest scourge. On his way to the council room, Alto declares to Vermeil that he'll be the strongest person in the world. He enters the room, only to find the girls changing clothes, and Jessica demands punishment, but Elena dismisses it, acknowledging their fault for not locking the door. Then she proceeds to talk about their agenda. The paper doll left during the incident. Chris tries analyzing it, and since the other gold squares can also grasp its complexity, as it's also not recorded, they assume that their opponent is a platinum square. Ilek visits Kahakamiya, who complains about breaking her paper doll for communication, but he's ignoring him, as he's focused on the octopus, like monster in the glass tube. He informs her that he went to the high priest Haswell, but contrary to her expectations that he convinced him, he reveals that he ended up killing the old man. Then he leaves again, while holding pictures of Alto and Vermeil, saying he has to get what Kohakuya left. That night, Alto dreams of destroyed place, with a little girl crying. A woman clad in white asks about his feelings for the girl, and gives him two, to be righteous or to go against the whole world. Before he can answer, he wakes up. Unable to sleep, Vermeil finds him studying for the exam. The council, particularly Chris, pressures him to excel. To help, Vermeil offers to exchange mana instead, as it is a practical exam. The next day, he sees the book where Vermeil was sealed, and packs it along in his bag. They arrive at the testing place, and everyone's attention is on them, since they're from Ortigi, which has the highest percentage of students passing the bronze exam. Thinking about its difficulty, Lilia wonders how Marks manages to join them, and he boasts about his secret weapon. At Proctor, Colonel Farrows is in charge of guiding them. He explains the details of the exam, which is supplying mana to the fire inside the crystal, and everyone seems relieved after hearing it, except Alto, who knows it's not that easy. After announcing the mechanics of the exam, the students start testing their mana, but all of them fail to do it, until it's Lilia's turn, who manages to make a big fire inside. Next, a student from a different school came up to the crystal and also did it. Rem also creates a big fire. Except Marx, who only produces a lull with all of his effort. Finally, it's Alto's turn. He quickly recognizes the crystal's formula and spots the area where he can directly send his mana. Inside, the true test is about recognizing the magical formula imbued in the crystal. After confirming with the proctor that he can supply his mana from anywhere, he plans to do it most easily. But Vermeil questions him if he's sure. Recalling his promise to be stronger, he chooses the hardest path and sends his mana, creating silver fire inside her. Mail encourages her not to hold back, making the crystal break into pieces. The proctors are surprised by this, as gold squares won't be able to break it, and even platinum squares will find it hard to do. Lost in their thought, they ignore Alto's continuous apologies. Instead of feeling great, he worries that he fails the exam because he breaks it, so they guarantee his perfect score. During tea time, they talk about what happened to the exam and shift to Mark's secret weapon. As he didn't use it, Lilia's curiosity grows, so he finally shows it proudly. A six-sided pen that he also used to pass the entrance exam. They just look at Madame found it. Lilia wonders if anyone can perfect the exams, and Cheryl shares that there's one platinum square who perfected all of it from bronze to gold. Hearing this, Vermeil assures Alto that he can also ace it. Lilia also cheers for him and recommends being wary, as he doesn't know what he'll encounter. Before the written exam starts, Vermeil recharges him with a kiss and uses Lilia's warning as an excuse to say it's for preparation. On their way to the exam room, he bumps into the student who tests after Lilia. Even after explaining that he needs to check a lot of things before the exam, he still gives in to Vermeil's insistence to take their time kissing. Meanwhile, in the comfort room, that student thinks that Artieja is looking down on him. Unluckily, Eilert is also in there and kills him to borrow his identity. After their sparring, Jessica questions Elena if they can trust Vermeil. She answers that they can only wish for a miracle. However, when Jessica wonders about Alto's reason for sacrificing for the demon, Elena claims that he loves her, which is a miracle. She emphasizes that a human loving a demon is a miracle, because is not true. Alto almost arrived late for the test, but there was someone more late than him. Allight. He sits beside him casually and wishes him good luck. Alto and Vermeil are separated during the exam, but she waits for him, trusting his abilities. Despite hearing the test is harder than usual, Alto schemes through the questions and notices his seatmate sleeping. With little time left, Iolite wakes up and answers everything swiftly. Alto is shocked by his speed. Iolite looks at Alto's answers and tells him he doesn't need to explain it. The proctor scolds them for talking, and Iolite hints that nobody will pass the exam anyway. Soon a report of a murdered student arrives, and Iolite reveals his true intentions by summoning a rock golem. Sitting atop it, he declares himself the enemy of the demon master. Alto deduces he's a co-conspirator of Obsidian, due to his knowledge of Vermeil's identity. The lieutenant tries to cast a spell, but the golem swiftly strikes his hand. Colonel Phalanx intervenes, and Vermeil enters, requesting backup from Alto. She attacks, but the golem surprisingly blocks her strike. Phalanx identifies Iolite as part of Heaven's Will, and the youngest platinum square, a prodigy who scored perfectly on every exam. Everyone has already evacuated except Lilia, who insists on going to Alto. Iolite summons his wand, and cannons are added to his golem. When the backup arrives, Lilia slips in with Cheryl and Marx following. However, they are all teleported to another space by the woman in the veil. Using transference magic, the Cull move Vermilion. Alto exchange blows with Iolite, but they can't scratch him and just destroy the place. The golem picks up the weakened Vermilion, and Alto stands up in anger. Despite bleeding his head, his golden mana, the demon mana, surrounds his body and he destroys the golem, freeing Vermilion from its grasp. Then from golden his mana turns into silver. Looking at his determination, Iolite laughs at him and creates two more golems, which Alto destroys right after. He charges towards Aiel, but the latter uses his knight to pierce into his uniform, breaking his momentum. He asks Aiel about his plans for Vermilion, and he reveals that they plan to use her to destroy the world. Furious, he destroys the spear and attacks Iolite, but he just slams him to the ground. It enrages Vermilion, so she transforms into a demon. But Iolite sets a trap to chain her, turning her back to her usual form. Elodie approaches her, but Alto clings to his feet. Annoyed, he signals the knight to fire an attack towards Alto. But the book, where Vermil was sealed, dispels the incoming magic, saving Alto. The woman in his dream appears and introduces herself as the Major Beginnings, the first platinum and the one who sealed Vermilion. She informs Alto that the sealing is done, as per Vermilion's request, and now she's imprisoned by her trauma. After confirming that he's completely on Vermil's side, she guides him to her memories, and they disappear before Iolite's attack reaches them. They enter Vermil's memories from 550 years ago, when she was still a little girl, way back before the building of the Ortega Kingdom. In the past, Vermil lived happily with her family in the Abbey. Despite being poor and not blood-related, she creates a flower crown for the sister, eats meals delicious cooking, and gets along through other siblings. The sister is aware of Vermil being a demon, but she still cares for her and hides it from everyone else, despite being a devotee of God who's sent to hate demons. Since everyone detests demons too much during that era, the sister hides her horns with ribbons. Altum notices that Vermil won't think of sealing herself, given that she has a family, knowing that he knows that there will be a problem soon. The Major Beginnings prepares him for the upcoming events. That time comes, and kids discover her horns and throw stones at her. Angered Alto, but then Miel arrives and defends her. She then notices Vermil's horns. She apologizes for hiding it, but she doesn't turn away and hugs her instead. She comforts her that everything will be fine, and she will protect her as her older sister. Soon, the townsfolk demand the Abbey to surrender Vermil, as they can't accept living with her. The sister believes that God will save them. The situation worsens when the plague strikes their town, and the people die one by one. They blame Vermil for it and become more aggressive. Still, the sister defends her and declares that she will never forgive them for insulting her. Inside, Mael decides to let Vermil escape and orders her to run away. Then she apologizes, crying for not escaping with her, while hugging Vermil, accepts it, and assures her that she will be fine. Vermil runs away as fast as she can and trips, leaving her shoes behind. She overhears the townspeople, forcing her family to reveal her location. She clenches her fist and stands up, determined to surrender so she can save her family. However, when she came back to the Abbey, the people had already hung them on the tree. Despite the sister's teaching that she has to be good, her feelings overwhelm her mind as the people approach her, repeating the same words, kill. Because of this, she transforms into a full demon, destroying the whole town. The damage she caused is far greater than the plague, which earns her the title of being the strongest. Scourge Alto watches the little kid, repeatedly apologizing for what she did. He then learns that she lived 200 years of loneliness before she got sealed. He approaches the little girl, who expresses her worries that no one will like her anymore because of her sins, then bawls her eyes out. Alto hugs the kid and assures her that it's all right. He also commends her for trying her best. The kid transforms into the adult Vermil, still crying. She confesses everything she can't tell before. Despite knowing the truth, he accepts Vermil and vows to be with her forever. They kiss, and she finally releases herself from her trauma, and they come back to reality, where Alto confesses that he loves her. After coming back to reality, what awaits Alto and Vermil at Islay? Prepared for their battle, he combines his might and golems, upgrading his knight. He convinces Alto that Vermil is evil, so he should give her up, since he'll only get hurt by being her master. However, this doesn't sway Alto's conviction, and tells Iolite that he knows nothing about Vermil. Iolite's mate finishes charging up and aims for them, teaming up Alto and Vermil, glowing with golden and silver mana, joined to counter his blow. They successfully destroy his knight. Ale prepares for another attack, but the veiled woman stops him as their time is up. Then, they escape through the dimensional gate she created. Alto tries going after them, but Vermil stops him. At the Major Beginnings, Fatima appears on Vermil's back, surprising Alto. Vermil recognizes her once again. Alto vows to be the strongest mage to protect Vermil, even prepared to go against everyone in the world. After advising him to spend his time with Vermil, Fatima expresses her relief that she trusts her to him. She assures Vermil that she doesn't need to worry anymore. With Alto around, then magic circles form on top of her, and she bids her farewell. She vanishes and magic shoots in the air, creating rainbows. Their surroundings change, turning them back to their school. Alto picks up the book and gives it to Vermilk, who realizes that their encounter is Fatima's doing. Lilia, Marks, and Cheryl appear, relieved that Alto has come back. Afterward, Alto begins sparring sessions with Jessica and Chris. Jessica pushes him back during fencing and kicks his stomach after sending his sword flying. Then, Chris arrives and volunteers to be his sparring partner, claiming she'll be gentle. But her smile says otherwise. She quickly kicks his neck, and they engage in a battle of strength. While pushing each other after, he comes back up, but she overpowers him and locks his head with her thighs. She inserts her fingers into her mouth and attacks with magic. Right there, despite being advanced in magic, she notes that he lacks the technique, physical strength, and experience. He then requests to spar with them again, and shares he wants to be stronger for Vermil, making them embarrassed by his sincerity. Vermil and Alto continue living together. While kissing, Vermil tells him that something's wrong with her chest. So he checks it out, but then flusters Vermil, who's usually shameless about it. Before they sleep, Vermil admits that her heart starts racing. After he confesses, she thanks him for accepting her, and then they express their feelings for each other, ending with a kissing session again. At the council, Elena asks their thoughts about the recent accidents, and everyone agrees to protect the students. Alto, on the other hand, swears to protect Vermil at all costs. The bronze exam results are out, and Lilia, Cheryl, and Marks pass. Meanwhile, Alto's missing because he's hiding in a corner, together with Vermil, who's requesting kisses.